Hello and welcome back to another video here at Megajordinary. I'm going to try and not move my hands erratically like I always do in every video. Yeah, I think we've turned over a new leaf. We'll see. Today I'm going to be covering a true crime case, or rather cases from Ireland, my home. So the case we're going to be discussing today is called Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. The term Vanishing Triangle was coined by the media, and it refers to a number of disappearances of Irish women from 1993 to 1998. All of these women that I'm going to be discussing today have never been located, and their whereabouts still remain a mystery to the present day, 2021. Disclaimer before I begin, all of the cases and all of the information that I'm going to be discussing in this video are readily available online. I am literally just taking the information online and relaying it to you, my viewers. I'm not blaming anyone on anything. I am just speaking about some theories in the videos and straight facts. And obviously everybody that we speak about is innocent until proven guilty. Just my little disclaimer, so before I begin. So the missing women linked to the Vanishing Triangle were all linked together for a number of reasons. The missing women all vanished in and around Leinster boundaries and within an 80-mile radius of Dublin. I'll touch on specific locations as I get further into the cases, so you'll know exactly where everyone went missing from, etc, etc. All of the women were aged between 18 to 39 years of age. So to date there are officially 6 women that are thought to have been considered part of Ireland's Vanishing Triangle, but in this instance I'm going to speak about 7 women because there's one case that I think is quite interesting that I feel like should be coined in with the Vanishing Triangle, but we'll speak about that as we go. So the first missing woman that I'm going to be discussing is Annie McCarrick. She is said to be the first victim or first missing person of the Vanishing Triangle. So Annie McCarrick was actually born in Long Island, New York, United States of America on the 21st of March 1966. She moved to Dublin, Ireland in January of 1987. Because she was always fascinated by Ireland, she moved over to study. She studied at National University of Ireland in Maynooth, and previous to that she studied at St. Patrick's College in Drumcondra, and she had Irish heritage. So Annie went missing on the 26th of March 1993, a few days after her 27th birthday. Present day, she has been missing for 28 years. On the day of her disappearance, CCTV footage caught Annie at the AIB, which is Allied Irish Bank, in Sandymount. The CCTV captured her withdrawing money. She was then said to have done some food shopping in Quinsworth, which was a supermarket, before going back to her apartment at approximately 3 p.m. that day. It was said that she'd called a friend and expressed her interest in going to the Wicklow Mountains that evening, but the friend declined to go with Annie. And then at 3:40 p.m, Annie was spotted on a bus heading for Enniskerry, Wicklow. So there's a famous pub in Wicklow called Johnny Fox's Pub, and a doorman had claimed that he seen Annie between 8 p.m. and 10 p.m. the night of her disappearance at the Johnny Fox's Pub with a man, and he said the man was wearing a wax jacket. That's the only description that he could give of the man that Annie was allegedly with. He said when they got to the door there was a trad band playing that night, and it was actually, you had to pay to enter, and Annie wasn't aware of this, so he said that the man actually covered the entry fee for Annie. And after that the doorman didn't see them leave, and none of the spectators or the people in the pub seen the man and Annie leave either. So after Annie was reported missing, the Gardaí, which is the Irish police force, I'm going to say Gardaí a lot throughout this video, so just know that it's the Irish police force. The Gardaí believed that Annie's disappearance may have been at the hands of a serial killer, and we will touch base into this theory later on in the video after I've discussed all of the women's cases in detail. They actually believed that Annie may have never even made it to Johnny Fox's Pub, and that was just a case of mistaken identity. The investigative team actually believed that Annie may have went missing shortly after arriving in Enniskerry that afternoon. New information came to light in September 2020 from an eyewitness. The woman apparently came forward and said that she had seen Annie that afternoon in Poppy's Cafe in Enniskerry with a man. Gardaí actually considered this to be a vital new piece of evidence, and they reckon that it's going to be very promising in solving Annie's case. Now, the second woman that went missing in the Ireland's Vanishing Triangle is Eva Brennan. Now, Eva Brennan isn't officially on the list, but I'm going to talk about it because I think that it's very plausible that she was part of the Vanishing Triangle. Her case is very interesting considering it only happened a couple of months after Annie's disappearance the same year, in similar enough proximity. So Eva Brennan was aged 39 when she disappeared on the 25th of July 1993 from Terranure, Dublin. Eva went missing only 4 months after Annie McCarrick, so that's why I think it's quite interesting. She vanished after leaving her parents' home. She went over to her parents' home for a family lunch, and she used to go over to her parents every single day without fail. She was often described as a very reclusive, kind of withdrawn person who only really spent time with her family. When Eva didn't go to her parents' house for 2 days after this family lunch, her family grew increasingly worried because, as I mentioned, she was over with her family every single day. So her dad went to her apartment to check if she was okay, but when he knocked on the apartment there was no answer, so he actually contacted a member of his staff at his pub that the Brennan family owned, and Eva's dad and the staff member had to actually break a window to access Eva's apartment. And when they got inside, the jacket that Eva had worn to the family lunch 2 days prior was on her chair. That would indicate that she did actually in fact return home after her family lunch 2 days prior. So they obviously found this very distressing and very worrying, so they reported Eva missing to the Gardaí. But the Gardaí did not investigate Eva's case for 3 months after she was initially reported missing. It was said that Eva was suffering from depression prior to her disappearance, but her family strongly disagree that Eva took her own life, and her family have maintained that to this day. A theory suggested by some Gardaí was that Eva may have been connected to double murderer Michael Bambrick from Clondalkin in Dublin. He murdered Mary Cummins, who was the mother of 2 of his children, and then he also murdered Patricia McGauley, who was also a mother of 2 of his other children. So very personal crimes of passion, we will say. But Eva's family denied that she was ever even in the Clondalkin area, although Terranure and Clondalkin are in close proximity to each other. They're not, you know, a million miles away. They're kind of over the south side. They're very close. But her family maintained that because she was so reclusive and she only spent time with her family, that it was highly unlikely that she ever crossed paths with Michael Bambrick. So, and also, as I've said, the 2 women that he unfortunately murdered were both personal relationships of his, and they were classified as crimes of passion, so it's very unlikely that his modus operandi would steer from that path. So Eva's case has run cold to this day. There are no more leads, no more, you know, insights or anything to what may have happened to Eva. Now, the third disappearance is that of Jojo Dullard. Jojo Dullard was born in Callan, County Kilkenny on the 25th of January 1974. And she was 21 years of age when she went missing on the 9th of November 1995. Jojo was actually living in Harold's Cross in Dublin at the time, but the day of her disappearance she was due to move back to Callan. She was said to have been having drinks in town with her friends, and then she went to get the bus to Callan at 10 p.m. that night, but she missed it. She missed the last bus, and so she decided to hop on another bus to Naas, County Kildare, and she boarded this bus at approximately 10:50 p.m. When she arrived in Naas, she then proceeded to hitch a lift, and the driver of that first lift dropped her off in Kilcullen, County Kildare. And at roughly 11:15 p.m, she then hitched another lift in which this driver dropped her off in Moon, County Kildare at approximately 11:35 p.m. When she was dropped off in Moon, she then went to a phone box and decided to ring her friend and explain to her friend what had happened, that she'd missed the first bus, so she ended up in Kildare, had hitched 2 rides. And as she was on the phone explaining this to her friend, Jojo said to her friend that another car had pulled up and offered her a lift. So she said that she had to go. She hung up the phone, and that was the last time anyone has ever heard from Jojo Dullard. So like that, a couple of searches were, you know, done, and investigations were done on the immediate area, Kildare, but it ran cold. No new leads, nothing. But in October 2020, Gardaí upgraded Jojo's case to a murder investigation. The statement they released said that they are satisfied that Jojo is dead and that she most probably met her death by violent means. The fourth missing woman is called Ciara Breen. Ciara Breen was a 17-year-old girl from Dundalk, County Louth, and she is the youngest girl in the Ireland's Vanishing Triangle case. And she went missing from her home in Bachelor's Walk, Dundalk, in the early hours of the morning on the 13th of February 1997. It's suspected that Ciara had left her house to go and meet an unidentified person, because Ciara's bedroom window was left on the latch, which would indicate that she left it unlatched so that she could climb back in easily some hours after she had left her house. In 2014, 2 witnesses came forward with sightings of Ciara from the night of her disappearance, and from these sightings a man in his 50s was arrested but then subsequently was released without charge. The Gardaí say that it is believed that the main suspect is now in fact deceased. The fifth missing woman is called Fiona Pender. Fiona Pender was a 25-year-old woman from Tullamore, County Offaly. And she was last seen on the 23rd of August 1996. And she was actually 7 months pregnant at the time of her disappearance. She was last seen leaving her apartment by her then boyfriend, John Thompson. It is said that the main suspect has always been a man known to the family, though not part of the family. And in 2008, a little wooden cross bearing Fiona Sinnot's name was discovered on Slieve Bloom Way on the border of Laois and Offaly, which has now led to the belief that Fiona maybe is buried in the Slieve Bloom Mountains. So the next case is that of missing woman Fiona Sinnot. Now, I just spoke about Fiona Pender, who went missing from Offaly and she was 7 months pregnant, but Fiona Sinnot is a separate woman, so just remember, if I keep saying Fiona, you'll know that they're two different women. So this is the sixth case that I'm going to be speaking about. Fiona was a 19-year-old woman who went missing from Rosslare, County Wexford on the 8th of February 1998. Fiona was actually living in Broadway, County Wexford at the time of her disappearance, and she was last seen leaving Butler's pub in Broadway with her ex-boyfriend and father of her 11-month-old daughter Emma, and this man's name was Sean Carroll. Sean Carroll told the investigators that he had stayed the night at Fiona's house after walking her home from the pub, but he maintains that he slept on the couch. He said that Fiona was complaining of chest pain and pains in her arms and that she wanted to get an early night. He said that the following morning before he left, he went up to Fiona's room and she said that she was going to be making an appointment later on that day with a doctor to get her arm and chest checked out. She actually said she was going to hitch a lift, but she maintained that she had no money, so Sean claimed that he gave her £3 at the time. And then he walked right out of the house. His mother was in the garden in her car, and he got into the car with his mother and went back home to his family home. Very strange. Like, I don't understand why he couldn't have just given Fiona a lift to the town and she could have, you know, tried to make a doctor's appointment then. I don't know, it's just a bit weird. Fiona and Sean's baby girl Emma was actually staying at Sean's family home with his mother the night before. So when he arrived back to his house, Emma was there. I assume another family member was minding her while the mother left to collect him. But yeah, it's very strange that he didn't invite Fiona back to the house to see the baby before she made a doctor's appointment. Very sus. And so Fiona was never seen again. There was also no evidence to suggest that Fiona had either hitched a lift that day or went to see a local GP. No evidence whatsoever. And during an examination of Fiona's house, they said that everything was stripped bare. They said there was no indication to suggest that a 19-year-old woman and her 11-month-old baby were living in that premises. Locals had also reported that there was loads of bin bags outside of the property in the days after Fiona's disappearance, and a farmer actually came forward and said that he found several bin bags in one of his fields that pertained documents and items belonging to Fiona Sinnot, but at the time he just thought it was another case of illegal dumping, so he burned the bin bags. It wasn't until he seen that Fiona was actually missing that he realised that that was a mistake and that could have been vital evidence in her disappearance. After her disappearance, it also came to light that Fiona suffered domestic violence from an ex-boyfriend. Now, I don't know whether this ex-boyfriend was Sean. I wasn't able to find that information. It's clearly heavily guarded, but I mean, we could assume, we could not assume, you know, innocent until proven guilty. But yeah, it's said that she was hospitalised on a number of occasions due to domestic violence at the hands of an ex-boyfriend. The last victim that I'm going to be speaking about today is Deirdre Jacobs. Deirdre Jacobs is the last woman considered missing in Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. Deirdre went missing on the 28th of July 1998 and she was 18 years of age at the time. She went missing from Newbridge, County Kildare. Deirdre was actually living in Twickenham, London at the time to study, but she was home in Newbridge for the summer. And what's so bizarre about Deirdre's case is that she went missing, like she literally vanished from her parents' garden. Like she vanished from the bottom of her parents' garden, like, and multiple vehicles had passed by Deirdre's house, had seen Deirdre there. Let's move on to some theories and suspects in relation to Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. So, if you're from Ireland, you will know that the number one suspect in Ireland's Vanishing Triangle is Larrymurphy. Now, Larrymurphy was convicted and sentenced to 15 years in prison in 2001. The kidnap, R word, I can't say it because YouTube doesn't like that word, but R word, you can read between the lines here, and attempted murder of a woman in 2000. During the attack of the woman, which occurred in the Wicklow Mountains, 2 hunters stumbled across the scene and they recognised Larrymurphy. So they helped the woman, you know, took care of her, brought her back to her home, etc, etc, and then they went straight to the police station and reported this instance to the Gardaí, and they were able to identify Larry because they knew him. Although Larry was sentenced to 15 years in prison, he actually only served 10. He was also sentenced before the Sex Offenders Act was introduced later on in the year 2001, and so he wasn't subject to the post-release supervision order, which is absolutely insane to me. A very, very prolific, dangerous human being. I've no words. So he is regarded as the main suspect in the Vanishing Triangle, specifically in the cases of Annie McCarrick, Jojo Dullard and Deirdre Jacobs. At the time of Annie McCarrick's disappearance, Larrymurphy actually lived in Enniskerry, County Wicklow, in 1993. And in the case of Deirdre Jacobs, a piece of paper with Larrymurphy's name and phone number was found in her grandmother's possessions after her grandmother had passed away. So this was years later, but it's very, very interesting. And there are suspicions that he was actually working in Newbridge at the time of Deirdre's disappearance, and that he had went into Deirdre's grandmother's shop and had seen Deirdre at the time and maybe stalked her, but that is the general consensus of that. Finding the note in her grandmother's possessions after she'd passed away, it's very suspicious. Obviously, all this information is circumstantial and they haven't found any of these women alive, or they haven't found any of their bodies. So unfortunately, you know, it's all speculation. Make of it what you will. But it scares me that if these 2 hunters hadn't saved that poor woman in 2000 in the Wicklow Mountains, how many more women would have went missing? When he was released from prison in 2011, he was said to have moved to Spain, and then following his move to Spain, Amsterdam, in which he was allegedly found living with a double R word, ist. That is insane. And then in January 2013, he was spotted back in Dublin. I actually witnessed him when he was in Dublin. I was actually in the Inchicore area with my friends, and we were at a supermarket and it was late at night. We were standing outside and there was a man like staring at us. It was like when I looked at him, I didn't recollect who it was initially. It felt like we were in the presence of evil. Like it was like evil in a human form, and it almost turned your stomach. He had a little Jack Russell dog with him and a cap on. He was staring at us, and one of my friends was like, I think that's Larrymurphy. And I was like, no, it's not. He's not. That's not him. And then I don't know if he heard my friend saying it, but as that happened, he completely stared and kept his gaze at us as he walked past, and it was absolutely vomit inducing, let's be honest. It was so scary. But the next day it was all over all phone shows in Ireland. It was on the news that he had been spotted outside numerous primary schools, and there was multiple sightings of Larrymurphy. So yeah, very scary. So he is said to be living in London since 2014 under a new alias and working as a carpenter. So who knows? Very frightening that this man is out there. Now the Gardaí maintain that he is actually under surveillance by like Interpol and stuff, but who knows? So I want to talk about another case that happened in May 2018. A 24-year-old girl called Justine Valdez, who originally was from the Philippines but had moved to Ireland a couple of years previous, was abducted and murdered after exiting a bus in Enniskerry, County Wicklow. And if you recall, this is where Annie McCarrick had went missing in 1993. Justine had exited the bus at 6 p.m. and her home was about a 15-20 minute walk from the bus stop. And at 6:10 p.m, a woman seen Justine be bundled into the back of a car. A Jeep to be specific. Unfortunately, Justine's body was found on the 21st of May 2018 in thick undergrowth at Puck's Castle, Rathmichael, County Dublin. Mark Hennessy is the man who abducted and murdered Justine Valdez. On the day of Justine's abduction and murder, he was actually up in a police chase where he was subsequently shot dead by police he had a weapon and he was shot dead. This was the day of her disappearance, so this was before they even found Justine's body. And at the time, Gardaí said that they were going to check his DNA profile to see if he was linked to any other historical crimes that occurred in Ireland. They wanted to take a look back into his life to see his whereabouts at the time of the disappearances in relation to Ireland's Vanishing Triangle. They subsequently ruled him out eventually. So, unfortunately, none of these women have ever been found. There's no bodies, there's no whereabouts, there's nothing. They've essentially run cold. I know new information come to light in certain cases within the Vanishing Triangle, but we can just hope and pray that one day these cases get solved. DNA technology has come such a long way. We can just hope and pray that one day the family members and loved ones of these women can get some closure and some justice. Unfortunately, because these cases happened so long ago, certain family members have since passed on without ever knowing the whereabouts of their loved one, and that is just heartbreaking. So thank you for watching this video. If you liked it, please give it a big thumbs up. Comment down below your thoughts, theories, anything that you feel. Even new video suggestions are welcome. And don't forget to subscribe to this channel if you like our content and you want to see more. Hit the notification bell so you can be notified instantly when we do drop a new video. Until next time, bye.